Hello, I'm here today for another video. Today, we're going to be talking about emptiness versus fullness. Okay, so emptiness, that's the crown jewel of your precious non-duality. To those who haven't, of course, figured out that it's a complete crock at this point, or at the very least, that it's at only half the story, then you're definitely on the right track. But if you haven't realized that yet, well, you're trying to bypass. Or you're at the very, very beginning, and you probably think you're enlightened. And you would probably want to do something with it, like start a business and make money or do something. Anyway, emptiness is the inherent nature of physical reality and the identification with it. When you take the physical to be the reality and you identify yourself as being a physical person, entity, fundamentally, what's happening is that you are confining and restricting yourself purely to the physical. And in your experience, that is what it is. You have an inability, you have an actual inability to see beyond it. Not actually, but as you're identified with it, yes, you have an inability to see beyond it. As someone who is beyond it, I guess, because beyond it is actually the natural state. It's actually unnatural to be identified. It's a very strange thing. You're not supposed to. It's essentially something that shouldn't be possible is experientially possible, even though it's not actually happening. In your experience, you do experience that it is to a large extent, not completely, but you're unaware and unfocused mostly on the much larger part of you, which would give you every indication that the physical really isn't anything, really doesn't account for much, and it is a very specific aspect of reality. In a way, it's like the byproduct, like if you put into the calculator and you press enter, it's the thing you get when you press enter, the product, the sum, the end result, the output. That is what the physical is, first and foremost. And when you're identified with it, not only is it empty, and you're always doing everything you can to fill it, whether it's literally food, physical possessions, thoughts and emotions and memories, um, and you like to think that you can take it all with you, and to an extent you can, and you do, which is what reincarnation is. Reincarnation is actually, there's a certain kind of memory that will play out until it has been processed. Unless you become aware of it and you disidentify or you see through it. And that is the thing, that whenever you die, you more or less have unfinished business, or you have or you have physiological processes that are still playing out, and you need a physical body to play those out in. So you naturally take on a body. Whenever I describe it, it sounds weird. It's like, why would I would never, but it feels like, yes, you do. That's what you want to do. It's like, you know, whenever you die, people even while they're alive, they regret stuff. All this sorts of things that they wish that they had more of, less of. They wish it was a different experience, this and that, right? Everything that I guess you could say Abraham Hicks talks about in the inner being, and the, oh, we know what you're wanting and blah blah blah, and you want to come here and to experience and this sort of stuff. It's true. You, to an extent, experience it like that. Well, the larger part of you is pure positive, so it doesn't actually experience regret, and it doesn't look back at the past um in that way. Like, it doesn't look back in the past in that way. If it acknowledges things that happened in the past, it acknowledges them specifically as things that were learned, and ways in which it expanded on that topic. you know and wherever you expanded, that's where you're at when you die. Where you were at, the progress is saved, and you literally pick it up and you take on a new body and you start literally right where you left off. The energy, like, it stays right where it was at, doesn't go away. Like how, what is it, energy cannot be created. Like, there's nothing that, is it matter that can't be created or destroyed, or something like that? Well, I don't know if that's true. I'm pretty sure it's not. But about energy isn't created or destroyed. There really is a finite amount of energy that exists, right? And that finite amount of energy, even on an individual level, not just in a grand sense, but specifically on an individual level, is what you would experience as your lifetime. That's your lifetime. But then there's also other such things in there, that, like, things that were planned out, like, you know, getting hit, like car accidents, or just things like that. Things like that that were planned out in advance. And usually it doesn't happen that way. For the most part, it doesn't. Sometimes it does, to a lot of people, or even to most people. But generally speaking, on an individual level, it's just, the energy, there's a certain amount, and that certain amount is like how much you have for your entire lifetime. And it can be, depending on what you do with that energy, you can spend it, you can be very, very efficient with it, and you can even, if you can, I'm not going to get into it anyway, it's not important for this particular conversation, but there's a way to get more energy. But for the confines of this conversation, it's not important to talk about that yet. So basically, there's a finite amount of energy. It can be used and managed in a certain way. You can burn through it more or less to have a longer or shorter life, you know. Um, it also is like, the energy is also structured in a particular way. But the way that it's structured mirrors the grand blueprint. The two are the same. So it's as above, so below. So the way in which our system is constructed as human beings is the same as the way in which it is universally. So basically, we have the potential to, like antennas, because we are practically antennas in a way. In a way, we are antennas, and receiver transmitters, antennas, you know, all that sort of stuff. Beacons also, portals, gateways, gods, if you can realize that. The God lives here. I always talk about it. I'm telling you. I'm trying to tell you. If you really want to know who you are, this you got to go here. You got to go here. And that's where the power really kind of is, the valve as well as the back door. Well, the front door and the back door. Back door is used for exiting and other things. The back door, you have to, the valve is in the back door. Oh, you know what's interesting? I didn't really put piece this together until right now. Valve, the company, actually understands this. That logo Valve, if you've ever seen that old logo Valve with the dude with the thing on the back of his head, and it looks like he's like looking, but he's not, and it's like weird and trippy. That's kinda like, in a way, you have that capability. You actually you have it's more than that. I would say it's kind of like it's more than that, but it's like more than anything, there's a valve there. I didn't mean to do that. That but there's a valve, and when if you open the valve, the crown opens up completely like a flood lamp, you know? You know, one of those ones like with the shutters, and you open it up, it's like "Meep." It opens up like that. Also like a flower, it opens up. You find the valve. You know, people do all this stuff, whereas you just can open it and just be open and it's stable if you've reached that point, right? And that's where the actual untapped, like the untapped, unlimited reserves of energy are that allows you to really do stuff, you know? Because before then you it's like you may know, but you don't have like the energy. But then also allowing that energy to channel through you by opening the valve, which you can only really open if you open the front door, which is here. You gotta open the front door so that you can so that light can start coming through. And when light starts coming through, light starts coming inside the chamber in your head. And it's, don't think physical. There is a physical aspect to it, but it's just for the, I'm not going to explain it, but think of the physical body as like the hardwired aspect of the matrix. There is like a physical component, you know, like technical aspect to everything, right? That is able to connect to like the cloud and all this sorts of stuff and do all this stuff in the metaverse, right? To use computers as an analogy. Because in a way, you really are a technology, as you are the most sophisticated. It's not in a way, you are a technology. Human physical vessel is a technology, but it is one of the most, if not the most advanced physical apparatus that is available in the universe. It is one of those. I'm not sure of other places that have it. I'm sure there probably are, but humanity is actually like our physical vessels actually have that capability inherently. It is something that has to be consciously realized. Like you have to go into it and activate it and do stuff. Like you have to do it, but it's not something that can happen on accident, right? But since forever, there's people who've been talking about how and what and all this sorts of stuff. So, you know, and it's and how it is how was I saying? This is about emptiness versus fullness. So all I'm really talking about right now is the emptiness. All right. So also, if you're talking about anything to do with your life situation, you know, and oh, this is me, and you're all identified with it, that's this whole issue that I'm talking about. That you're being identified with it, right? However, the larger part of you is the fullness. Now, the emptiness seems inherently empty, and it's dissatisfact. It's it's inherently unsatisfactory. Although you think that's normal, but it's not. Not at all. Not at all. It's so abnormal that when you get a taste of the truth, it's so destabilizing that your sense of self begins to retroactively and completely internally implode and collapse. You know, like implode and then explode after that. Kind of like how supernovas happen. Something like that is trying to happen. But basically, what people end up doing is holding it out and then holding it in. When they hold it out, that's when they are like Gnostics have called them Hylics. Some people have called them NPCs contemporarily, bots, non-player characters. It's these people who don't have an internal dialogue. They just seem to be the embodiment of the in what would be the internal dialogue. So they have no subconscious mind. They just have unconscious. They're just unconsciousness. Like essentially, what I would describe them as is just energy that's just playing out. Like just a purely a biological process. And some with some minor psychological, some minor psychophysiological components, but it's not particularly extensive. The psychophysiological components are specifically pertaining only to the physical um safety, integrity, is physical integrity, and perhaps also longevity of that physical vessel, right? Which shows up often as fear and greed and, you know, the lust for many different things. Um, and the utter revulsion and inability to be around without being completely disturbed. Other things, in complete contrast to the lust for things, and a complete revulsion, right? And then also a grasping and a hoarding of memory. That's what happens when you become identified with the physical, because that's all it is. And then when that's all it is, you just become a hoarder, and you embody all of the qualities of someone who only has a certain amount of time, can only has a certain amount of time to get as much as they can, and they're trying to take all that stuff to the next life. But it never happens. But what does happen is energetically they take it over, and in their memory they take it over. And so whenever they actually do get to that next life, now they're just pushing just that much harder, and it just accumulates until it completely starts to break. But it's not about money. It's like money is a representation for all the lusts that that any person can actually have. Money represents that, because money can give uh, grant anything, essentially, is what it represents. And it actually effectively can do that in this world, right? And so in the confines of that example it works, right? But the fullness of things, it shows you not just that how empty things actually are, but it shows you also the empty of the nature, the nature of the emptiness, and that it's actually empty of like content. Like it's not good or bad. It's actually a blank slate. It's actually a blank slate in many ways. But the fullness itself isn't a blank slate. As you're identified with the emptiness, it seems the fullness seems empty and bland and empty of content. And it's the emptiness that seems full, and everybody will seek the false light. They do that because they don't know the real uncreated light, the radiant light, you know? So they need an example. So they have people like me who come down to help and teach and we take on certain challenges, certain contracts as people have called them, and in the particular way of understanding it, it works in order to understand how to work through what it is that you guys are all dealing with here on this planet at this time. And when such things are worked through and you have someone who can practically walk you through these things because they actually understand it and they're not just haphazardly fumbling through the dark while saying that they're fully illuminated, um, it very much so helps. However, it's very difficult to get people on board if you're not if you're not simultaneously entertaining them, engaging and enticing their entertainment continually, and like kind of leading, like leading an exceedingly attractive runway of a runway of a lidded path directly to the truth, the very place that it is, making it look like like it's the place with all the glitz and the glamour by enticing the imagination while leading them towards the particular destination. Some people require more because there's just more stuff that they're clinging to, that they want to engage with. They like to be entertained, you know they like to be somebody, they like to do things in the world. But to the ones who want to leave, want to go to the fullness, it's good to keep them around momentarily. For now. There will be a time where it will make sense, but for now, where humanity is mostly not at that point at all, it's actually quite important to have them around, have people like that around, because it just raises the overall vibration of the collective consciousness. And and because they actually know things and they can do things and they can teach things, it's good to have them around for that practical reason as well. You know, the more the merrier. The more the people are to do that job, the easier it actually is to get that job actually done. And the more you do that job, the easier it gets to do it, the more it goes on, because people start to get it, and the more people start to get it, the easier it gets for other people to get it, because the load of the collective consciousness starts lightening and stuff like that, and it'll get to a point where even the heaviest of things will just seem like nothing. Like, and I'm talking about people who everyone on this planet currently like does that, like they did like the worst of crimes, right? Just you name it, right? You name it. Like what you guys would consider the worst of the worst, that you would be insulted that if I mentioned them in less than the least of devilishly unflattering term regards, then specifically, right? I'm just saying, to people like that, it's a prime example of what I'm talking about. You collective humanity can within this lifetime, it's potentially possible, it's available, um, get to a point where even what is considered to be the worst of the worst, not that it's just, oh, forgive and forget, even those themselves will see what's happening and they will be changed. They will be changed. They'll see the error of their ways. They'll actually see what what and how they were doing was a problem. They'll see it. But then also, other people will see their side of it too, and how it kind of served a greater purpose, and also how, to some degree, even though it may have seemed bad from one side, from another side, it's actually not quite as bad. It's not quite as bad. It's not quite as bad as you think, you know. And it got things pushed in an unexpected way in a certain direction that ended up getting us all somewhat quickly to a place that we become very accepting of just about every kind of everybody that there is. And when we get to that point, that's a point that's very special in humanity. That's a point where people become possibly willing to share. And when people become possibly willing to share, anything's possible. I swear, we can do whatever we want. The entire universe becomes our oyster, our playground. It's just true. It's just true, and everything unlocks to us. In fact, in that precise moment, what may actually happen is all of these aliens and all this other stuff, all this hidden stuff will just, I mean, along the way we'll learn stuff kind of like how we're doing now, but what will happen is it'll open up in a completely different way that it's a completely new frontier, just to put it lightly. I can't really describe it, but it's a completely new frontier at that point. Right. And here's another thing too. There are several agendas that are out here trying to screw all this up. And as twin flames, it's most important for us because we came here and we chose at this time to help. Our mission, the mission that we all feel specifically, is to raise the the overall vibration of the collective consciousness by embodying Christ consciousness. Now, one thing you may notice is whenever it comes to twin flames, there is several ways of interpreting the number 144,000. There's several ways. One way is to look at the particular construction of the physical apparatus, energetically speaking, the wiring. 72,000 nadis, you know, is what the human body has. That's essentially all the a nadi is basically a chakra point. Now, see, there's the main centers, which are basically like main hubs where many of them all converge. But like throughout your entire body, there's many, many, many smaller single points. It's not a conglomeration. It's very single points, small. Like there's many throughout your body, and they're all connected, right? There's energy, there's subtle pathways, subtle channels, like non-physical channels. So like if you were to cut you open, you wouldn't find it. It's on a different dimension. Experientially, you feel it. We don't yet have the technology to see it in that way. And you don't really need to do that because you are the technology that can see it in that way, that does see it in that way. You're just not particularly aware of it at this moment. But yeah, it's the energetic construction. That's one way. Another way is the amount of actual pairs that there are. Now, it may be there's a deceptively large amount of people who are subscribed to different channels or who have viewed certain particular pieces of content. But if you notice, there is a certain amount that kind of show up everywhere. At this point in the game, people are kind of tired, they've taken every kind of course, they've done every kind of thing, so I'm here saying what I'm saying. They don't really want to hear what I'm saying. They think I'm just some Joe Schmo schmuck over here just trying to take their money. They don't know I got plans. They don't know what I'm, they don't know. But it's like, besides that, one of my plans has always been, even though I took way longer than I needed to get around to it, it sucks. And then other people ended up coming in before me and just screwed everything over. Because a lot of this, honestly, I blame myself for a lot of how things went. A lot of y'all probably would have been with your twin this whole time if I wasn't dragging my feet so freaking hard. Like, I'm not even joking with you. It's probably sounds stupid, but that's the truth. And then, like, all these other people who came and screwed all this stuff up, and like that, now it's all confusing. And then, like, that's why y'all probably don't even want to hear what I'm saying. Like, what I'm telling you probably even think what I'm saying sounds exactly like what Kurt says, or like what some of these other people said. But I'm telling you, probably the only person who sounds at all similar to what I'm saying at all is probably Sadhguru, and at times maybe Adyashanti. That's it. That's it. There really isn't. And it's not because I, like other people, typically what people typically do is they will extensively memorize information, whether they realize they're doing that or not, or whether they're actively doing that or not, because some of them they'll end, it'll become like an academic thing, an academic pursuit, and they'll start schools and stuff like that and start charging, and it's like people get all really like, they like entertainment. They really love the stories and the tales. They like to really do stuff to pertaining to topics and stuff. They don't really actually like to take the damn journey. They don't want to actually go anywhere. The second night it talks about going somewhere, now there's a problem. I'm bored. Oh, there's something. I'm freaking out about something, and it's like, I get it, but it's like, as twin flames, you don't have a choice, unfortunately. Well, you do, but you don't. You do and you don't. And you kind of get that sense. Even if you've like wanted to die, you've probably like felt like, I can't actually like bring myself to like do it, because it's like, there's something, I swear there's something. And it's like huge, right? And it is. It's a big deal. But it's like, y'all are like, I'm trying to help y'all. And it's really important. And why I'm saying this, it's like, there are dark forces that are literally targeting us specifically, and one of them is the false light, which is all this BS misinformation running around in our community. Because if you notice, we have every type of bad actor in this community trying to take advantage of these people brazenly. And they're the ones who are actually successful, and they're the ones who actually get like some kind of success, like mainstream in like the twin flame universe, like the Sheila person, and them, the one that was made the documentary about. And like, there's some others that are like it and small, but it's like that whole like plastic, like, uh and it's like empty, like, thing that they have. And like, just all the stuff that they're doing, like, I'm talking about the energy of it. Like, like, just look it up, watch a video of a couple, and just really feel the energy of it. It's so inauthentic. But not just is it inauthentic, It's a certain specific kind where it's like they are, it's like, come join with us. Like hive mind, like cult, brainwashed, like like face hugger, like type thing where it's like you get too close to them, there's like a face hugger that jumps out, infects you, and it's like, oh, and now you're screwed. It's like, it feels like something like that. Like they have some kind of bug like that. It's like it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like someone's got them by the balls or something. Like I don't know. And like they just get, it's like they like you got to do it. You know, like I don't know what it is. It's weird. It's weird. And like the story that some of you have probably heard, the stuff that was in the documentary. I haven't seen it. I don't really, but I've heard people talk about some of this stuff. And it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. And it's like a community that people will like join. And it's like that's not, twin flames are not joining that stuff. That's like the normal regular, like, but that's the kind of that's the perception, you know, of it. It's kind of equivalent to what happened back in like the Middle Ages and stuff like that. Somewhat pre-Renaissance for sure, where people were getting burnt at the stake and shit like that because they understood like kind of symbolic interpretations of phases of the moon, and also they were able to interpret also along with that energy. And people, energy, what? Oh my god, you're a witch, warlock, burn this, burn them at the stake, do not let them, you know. And that's just what it was, like these, like, you know. But that's that version of that nowadays, where it's like that kind of way of doing things, but specifically whenever it comes to twin flames. And like the agenda that's behind that is the same agenda. It's the same agenda that's been chasing what we are, and what we're bringing about, and trying to apprehend it and keep it suppressed. And that's what all of human life and the way that it's constructed and all that stuff. But we're coming out of that. But the thing is, and this, especially at this time, there's like a kind of shift in energy that everybody's feeling. But it's important to use the energy and not become overly identified with it, because, and that's what I'm trying to help us do. I'm trying to help reorient us a little bit in the right direction. And it's important to start with this twin flames because we are the, like, the prime examples, and also we are the major grid holders. One person in alignment, or even close to it, is far more powerful than millions put together who are out of alignment. Millions who are out of alignment put together. But one who is very much so, like, very in alignment, is very, very powerful, right? Just one of them. Now imagine if you had 144,000 pairs of them. Yeah, that changes things. That really changes things. Okay? So that's what I'm starting to try to do here, because I've been watching this and it really can't go on, you know. They're getting ready to blow up this planet. We can't really let them do that. They're just about ready to like artificially induce famines and all sorts of crazy nonsense that they've long since been trying to do. They've been poisoning us. They've been doing, you know, everything, right? But it's like we are at the cusp of a point where, and you may not like that I'm saying this, but the agenda of the Illuminati will be realized, or will begin to be realized, or at least an opportunity for its realization will become very much so available. You know, not just as something potentially, but right now, like we can do it right now. It's available right now. We just have to like do it, you know? We're quickly approaching that point and we have to be prepared, right? It's very important that we're prepared because they're prepared, you know, and energetically speaking, if things change, it's entirely possible that if that much, if not most, probably not all, but certainly most and most of the worst of it can be entirely avoided. Completely. 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 And the reason why like someone like Elon Musk has been trying to leave for the longest time is because this kind of thing has been running down the pike for honestly way longer than even any of us have been alive. But certainly within the context, because like you know, you have the Bible, you have these all kind of other prophecies from these older holy books and stuff. They say these stuff, right? But you don't. There's no timeline. Everyone's always saying, "Oh, to yesterday, it's gonna end the world. It's really gonna happen now." It's like no, it's not gonna happen like how they're saying it, of course, but how it can happen is how it's happened before. You know, where basically thermonuclear warfare into complete oblivion of the planet. Yeah. You know that place Mars? That used to be a place that we were. Before what they're trying to do now, again, they did over there. So anyway, that aside, and this has happened many other times in many other places, but also many other times in many other places, they went in the other direction and in some ways entirely, completely sidestepped, like Matrix style, Neo sidestepped, like froze it in the air. It just dropped, had no momentum. You hear that? It had no momentum, and then they just fly and go some quantum leap on quantum leap on quantum leap on quantum leap, right? So we could either do that, or at the worst, we can um wipe ourselves out completely. But what is most likely is gonna be not wiping yourself out completely, but it's gonna be either like kind of like a cyberpunk-ish world where there are these like mega city places that are kind of like smart cities that are pretty much controlled and like hyper omega corporatized, bureaucratic corporatized and stuff. And it's super corrupt and all this sorts of stuff. But there's also going to be like everywhere else is going to be kind of like the wild west, and there's going to be all kinds of different places. Or there can be a place that I talked about, you know. It's available. We can get to anywhere we want to from now. And humanity is reaching a point where we're actually being coming open to that because we're being shown that everything just how BS everything is. You know, before they actually start to lose control and before that control becomes anarchy, I'm trying to redirect it. So, that was a pretty long video, and I'm gonna cut it short here. Anyway, have a good day.